After cooking dinner for 12 people, my sister-in-law said loudly, "We should order something. I can't eat this mess. Please stay with me as I tell you my story, and please do not forget to support our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing with your loved one." After 8 hours in the kitchen, I watched my hard work get mocked in front of the entire family. That single sentence wasn't just rude, it was a power play. My husband laughed. No one defended me. That's when I knew. I wasn't part of this family. I was their servant. But I didn't cry. I planned. I had started cooking early that morning. I cleaned every corner of the kitchen, chopped vegetables, grilled meat, and made 2 types of rice. I baked fresh bread and even prepared 3 different desserts. I wanted to make it perfect. I didn't sit down the whole day. I didn't even taste the food because I was too busy making sure everything was ready on time. When they arrived, I smiled and welcomed everyone with warm plates, but all that effort meant nothing to them. When my sister-in-law said those words, the room became silent. I looked around, hoping someone would say it was rude or unfair, but no one did. They just looked down at their plates or at each other. My husband chuckled like it was funny. At that moment, something broke inside me, not because of what she said, but because no one stood up for me. I felt like I was invisible. I didn't say a word. I just cleared the dishes slowly. My hands were shaking, but not from sadness, from something else. A quiet fire had started inside me. That night, while they laughed in the living room, I stood alone in the kitchen, washing the dishes. I didn't speak. I just listened. I heard my name once, followed by laughter. I knew they were talking about me. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed with my eyes wide open, thinking. I remembered every moment, every insult I had ignored. I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. They thought I would keep serving them, keep smiling. They were wrong. I wasn't done, but I was definitely changing. 3 years ago, we were at a cousin's wedding. Everyone was dressed nicely, and I wore a simple gown I had saved up to buy. I was standing by the drinks table when my sister-in-law walked over with 2 other women. She looked at me and said, "Oh, I didn't know playing was back in style." They all laughed. I smiled quietly and walked away, pretending it didn't hurt. That was the first time she embarrassed me in front of people, but I told myself it wasn't a big deal. After that day, it started happening more often. She would make small comments about my clothes, my cooking, or how I talked. She'd say, "Oh, you're so traditional," or "You don't know how to keep up with trends, do you?" She always said it with a smile, as if she was joking. I smiled back, trying not to take it seriously. I thought maybe I was being too sensitive. Even at family gatherings, she would speak over me, correct me in front of others, or tell people how I didn't really understand the family's way of doing things. She'd act like I was just a visitor in my own home. Everyone else laughed or stayed quiet. My husband never said anything. I once asked him about it, but he said, "That's just her. Don't take it personally." So I stayed quiet. I didn't want to create drama. I thought if I was kind and patient, she'd stop, but she didn't. In fact, it got worse. Her words became sharper, but still hidden behind fake smiles. Every time she spoke, I felt smaller. I tried harder to please the family, thinking maybe I wasn't doing enough. But no matter what I did, she always found a way to make me feel like I didn't belong. Looking back now, I see things clearly. It wasn't random. It wasn't harmless. She knew exactly what she was doing, and everyone let her. I wasn't imagining it. It was real. She didn't like me, and she wanted everyone else to feel the same. I stayed silent for too long, but not anymore. After everyone left that night, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. My husband walked in, smiling like nothing had happened. I asked him softly, "Did you hear what she said to me?" He shrugged and said, "You're being too sensitive. That's just how she is." His voice was calm, as if it didn't matter. I looked at him, waiting for more, something, anything, to show he cared. But he picked up the remote and started watching TV. I didn't speak again. I just lay down beside him, staring at the ceiling. My chest felt heavy, not because of what she said, but because of what he didn't say. I didn't expect a big fight or shouting. I only hoped he would tell me I didn't deserve that, but he didn't. He stayed quiet, and that silence spoke louder than any insult. The next day, he acted like everything was normal. He asked me what I was cooking for dinner. He sent a funny video to my phone. He smiled like nothing had changed. But everything had. I was no longer confused. I had spent years trying to fit into his family, trying to win their hearts, but I finally saw the truth. I was alone in that house, even with him beside me. I started paying attention. I looked through my phone and reread old messages from his sister. Messages where she pretended to be friendly, but always slipped in little jabs. I noticed the way she gave orders instead of asking. I saw how she copied things I did and mocked them later. I never noticed how many times she made me feel small. I never noticed how he never once told her to stop. I stopped deleting things. I saved the messages. I saved the voice notes where she raised her voice at me for no reason. I even started writing down things he said when I tried to talk to him. Things like, "Let it go," or "Why do you always have a problem?" I realized I was slowly disappearing in that house. Every time I stayed quiet, I lost a piece of myself. One night, I found a message in a family group chat. His sister wrote, "Let's not ask her to bring food next time. Last time was enough." He reacted with a laughing emoji. I saved that too. Not because I was planning something big yet, but because I knew I needed to stop lying to myself. My husband wasn't just ignoring her behavior, he was part of it. He chose peace with his family over respect for me. He chose laughter over loyalty. And I chose to open my eyes. I didn't argue with him anymore. I didn't cry in front of him. I just watched. I saved. 1 week after the dinner incident, I cleaned the house, arranged the chairs, and prepared snacks like I always did for game night. Everyone was coming over. His parents, his siblings, cousins, and of course, his sister. I made sure everything looked perfect. I smiled when they walked in. I laughed at their jokes. I welcomed them like nothing had happened. On the outside, I looked fine, but inside, I was quiet and watching everything. I served drinks, refilled plates, and smiled at my sister-in-law when she complimented the curtains. I knew she didn't mean it. She never meant it. She only spoke when others were watching. I nodded and thanked her, like I always did. But this time, I was different. I was paying attention. We played charades. We laughed and shouted answers. It felt like a normal evening. But I wasn't really playing. I was studying, watching who looked at her when she spoke, watching how they all reacted when she made comments. They followed her like she was the leader, even when she was wrong. My husband joined her team, like always. At one point, she joked loudly, saying, "We all know who always has to win. It's not about fun for her, it's about showing off." Everyone laughed. They looked at me. I knew who she meant. I just smiled and said, "Maybe I'm just good at games." I didn't let it show, but I marked that moment in my mind. Later, after everyone had eaten, I brought out dessert. I handed her a plate with extra whipped cream, just how she liked it. She gave me a fake smile and said, "You're finally getting better at this." I thanked her sweetly. I didn't feel angry. I felt clear. Her words were never kind, but I used to make excuses for her. Not anymore. That night, after everyone left and the house was quiet, I sat alone at the table. I remembered her face when she made the joke. I remembered how my husband looked down and said nothing. I wasn't surprised. I didn't expect him to speak anymore. I understood now. I couldn't change them, but I could show them who I really was. I opened my notebook and added a new idea to my list. I didn't want to fight her in private anymore. I wanted everyone to see her for who she was. The same people who laughed at me would soon know the full story. I didn't want revenge just to hurt her. I wanted the truth out in the open. I was done hiding my pain in silence. I had played the quiet, obedient role for too long. Now I would take control, calmly, clearly, and in front of them all. It happened by accident. My husband forgot to log out of his laptop, and I needed to print something. When I opened the browser, his messages were still open. I wasn't trying to snoop. I just saw my name, a group chat with his family. I clicked on it. The first thing I saw was a photo, me on my knees scrubbing the kitchen floor. He had taken it without me knowing. The caption under it said, "Our hard-working house help." His sister replied with laughing emojis. Another cousin said, "At least she's good for something." My heart dropped. They had been joking about me, not once or twice, again and again, post after post. They called me names. The maid, the cleaner. One of them said, "Don't marry for love, marry for free labor." My husband replied, "Too late, I already did." More laughter, more emojis. I couldn't breathe. I stared at the screen, trying to believe it was all fake, a mistake, but it wasn't. The jokes were real. The photos were real. His words were real. And he never once defended me. He joined them. He joked with them. He made me the punchline of the family. I sat there, frozen. My hands were shaking, but I clicked download. I saved everything, every screenshot, every word, every image. Not because I wanted to use it right away, but because I knew I had to protect myself now. I had to stop pretending things were okay. They didn't just laugh at me. They planned it. One message from his sister said, Let's act super polite at game night. She tries harder when she thinks we like her. Another said, let her cook. We can always order food later. They were using me like I was nothing. And my husband, he was part of it. He helped. He encouraged them. He sent updates about what I cooked, how clean the house was, how tired I looked. They thought it was all funny. They thought I would never find out. But now I knew, and I couldn't unsee it. It wasn't just a rude comment at dinner. It wasn't just silence. It was deep, cruel betrayal. Behind smiles and jokes, they were tearing me apart. And the one person who was supposed to protect me was helping them do it. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't confront him. I acted normal. I made dinner. I washed the dishes. But inside, something had changed. Something broke, and I didn't want to fix it. I wanted to remember it. I knew I couldn't let them keep laughing. I wouldn't shout or fight. I would wait. I would plan. And when the time was right, they would all see exactly who they had been mocking, and they would regret it. Every single one of them. The next weekend, I told everyone my cousin was coming to visit from another state. I said he worked in the food industry, scouting talents for a new cooking show. I kept the story simple, believable. My husband didn't question it. Neither did his sister. Everyone was just excited that someone important was coming around. My friend Daniel played the role perfectly. He dressed well, spoke with confidence, and carried a small camera everywhere. He said he liked documenting everything for his portfolio. At dinner, he complimented my cooking again and again. He even asked for the recipes. I could see my sister-in-law watching, pretending to smile, but her eyes were sharp. She hated every minute of it. Daniel told them he was thinking of recommending one family for a cooking video segment. Just a fun cook-off, nothing serious, but a chance to be seen online and maybe be picked for something bigger. Suddenly, everyone was interested, especially her. She even said, "Oh, this is fun. I've always wanted to be on camera for something classy." I nodded and smiled. I said we could all cook a dish, let Daniel record everything, and maybe even post it on his page. The family loved the idea. I offered to host the event at our house. My husband agreed quickly, saying I could handle it well since I always managed things quietly. I didn't show I had a plan. I acted like I was excited, like this was just a cute little family moment. But inside, I was already steps ahead. I bought all the ingredients, cleaned the kitchen, and told Daniel to make sure he caught everything, especially reactions. I told him the camera had to keep rolling no matter what. The day of the cook-off, I wore something simple and neat. I didn't brag. I didn't rush. I just prepared my dish carefully, like I always did. My sister-in-law, on the other hand, kept talking and showing off. She tried to act like a pro chef, but her hands were shaking. I could tell she wanted to win so badly. She wanted to be praised. She wanted attention. Daniel asked a few simple questions, made it seem real. "Where did you learn to cook? What dish are you proudest of?" Everyone answered, but I could feel the heat rising from her. She wasn't playing for fun. She wanted to beat me. She wanted the spotlight to move away from me and back to her. That's when I knew she'd fall right into the trap. She wouldn't just try to win. She'd overdo it. And when something went wrong, she'd panic. I didn't rush her downfall. I just let the camera keep rolling. Because this time, everyone would see what I had seen for years. I was done playing small. Now, it was my turn to make the rules. On the day of the cook-off, the living room was full. Family members came early, laughing, holding drinks, ready for a fun day. My husband set up the chairs and Daniel set up the camera. Everyone was excited. My sister-in-law walked in dressed like she was going on TV. Full makeup, a fancy apron, and a loud voice. She greeted everyone like she was the host of the show. She kept saying she was ready to win. She told people she made something special and expensive that no one could beat. I just smiled and nodded. I didn't say much. I was calm, focused, and stayed in the kitchen. I had cooked a 3-course meal the night before and stored everything properly. I only needed to warm it and plate it nicely. Daniel started filming. Each person explained what they cooked. Some dishes looked nice, others were simple. When it was her turn, she acted like a star. She talked for minutes about her meal, how she used rare ingredients, how hard it was to make. She was enjoying the attention. Then it started falling apart. While trying to impress everyone, she forgot the stove was on. The cream sauce she made started boiling over. A burning smell spread through the room. She rushed back to the kitchen, but it was too late. The bottom of her pan had burned black. Her dish was ruined. People tried to stay polite. Some looked away. Others whispered. My husband's aunt coughed and said, "Oh no." My sister-in-law started blaming the stove, saying maybe it was too hot, or someone had touched it. Her voice cracked a little. She wasn't in control anymore. Then it was my turn. I brought out my starter, main course, and dessert, each one carefully plated. I didn't speak much. I let the food do the talking. Daniel filmed every reaction. Smiles, nods, quiet murmurs of, "This is delicious." My mother-in-law even asked for seconds. Once the tasting was done, Daniel said, "Let's see a little family slideshow before we announce anything." I handed him the USB. He plugged it in. The screen lit up, but it wasn't a slideshow of pictures. It was screenshots, messages from the group chat. The names were visible. The insults were clear. There I was, photos of me cleaning, cooking, with captions like, "Our little maid hard at work." My husband's name was there too. His laughing emojis, my sister-in-law's mocking words. The room went silent. No one laughed now. No one defended her. She stood frozen. My husband stared at the screen like he didn't know what to do. The air felt heavy. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. I had already said everything, just not with words. I picked up my apron, took a deep breath, and walked out of the room. Let them sit with the truth. As I stepped out of the room, I could still hear the quiet murmurs behind me. No one followed me. No one called my name. I walked into the kitchen, took off my apron, and folded it neatly on the table. My hands were steady. My heart felt light for the first time in years. I went upstairs, packed a small overnight bag, and called for a ride. I wasn't leaving forever. Not yet, but I needed a break. I needed space to think clearly, away from the noise, the fake smiles, and the eyes that pretended they didn't see anything. My ride came, and I left without telling anyone. I turned off my phone. I stayed at a small guest house nearby. The room was quiet and clean. I sat by the window that night and thought about everything. I wasn't angry. I was done. Completely done. I had played their game long enough. I cooked. I smiled. I kept quiet. I gave them respect. They gave me names. The next morning, I went to work like nothing happened. I didn't want anyone's pity. I did my job, smiled at strangers, and kept my heart to myself. But inside me, something had changed. I no longer felt the need to belong to them. I had belonged to myself all along. I just forgot. Later that evening, I returned home. The house was quiet. No one said anything about the cook-off. My husband sat on the couch, flipping channels like nothing had happened. My sister-in-law had gone back to her house. I didn't ask. I didn't care. I made a cup of tea and sat down with my notebook. I listed out everything I needed to do next. Not revenge, not drama, just peace. Step by step, I began sorting my life. I checked my savings, looked up places for rent, and contacted a lawyer for a simple consultation. Nobody apologized. No one explained. They all acted like it didn't happen. That was fine. I wasn't waiting anymore. The silence they gave me was all the answer I needed. That night, my husband asked if I was okay. I nodded. I didn't want to talk. He watched me for a long time but didn't say much. Maybe he was scared. Maybe he finally realized something. I didn't care what he felt anymore. I had made up my mind. I fell asleep without tossing and turning. There were no heavy thoughts. Just a calm, quiet decision inside me that I would never let them treat me that way again. I had finally chosen myself. 1 week later, I cooked his favorite meal. Just rice, stew, and grilled fish. Nothing fancy. I set the table for two. No candles, no music, just silence. He came home from work, surprised to see everything so calm. He asked if it was a special day. I said, yes, it's the last dinner we'll have like this. He looked at me, confused. I told him to sit down. He did. I served his plate, then sat across from him. I let him eat a few bites before I spoke. Then I quietly said, I want a divorce. He dropped his spoon. His eyes widened like he didn't hear me well. He asked why. I didn't explain. I just reached for the folder beside me and placed it on the table. Inside it were screenshots, printed messages, and all the photos from the group chat. Every insult, every time he laughed, every moment he stood by while they mocked me. He flipped through a few pages. His hands started shaking. He looked at me like he was about to speak, but I stopped him. I told him he didn't need to say anything to me. I told him to take the folder to his lawyer and explain it to them. He asked if I was joking. I said no. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I stayed calm. I had already cried enough alone. I didn't have any tears left for someone who never protected me. He said it wasn't a big deal. I reminded him that respect is a big deal, that loyalty matters, that love without support is just a word. He tried to say sorry. I told him it was too late. I had already packed most of my things. I wasn't waiting for anyone to give me permission to leave. I was giving myself the freedom they never gave me in that house. He sat there for a long time, staring at the folder. I stood up, picked up my bag, and walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't say goodbye. Outside, the air felt lighter. My chest wasn't tight anymore. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I could breathe. I didn't have a full plan, but I had peace. I wasn't walking away with nothing. I was walking away with myself, and that was everything. 6 months have passed. I now live in a small, quiet apartment. It's not fancy, but it's mine. I cook only when I feel like it. There's no one watching me, judging me, or asking for more. Just peace. Word got around about everything that happened. A few family members reached out to say sorry. Some disappeared completely. I didn't chase anyone. I don't need people who only liked me when I was useful to them. My ex still tries to message me. He sends long texts, sometimes just a simple, "Hi." I never reply. I don't block him either. Let him see my silence. Let him wonder what I'm thinking. That's enough for me. I'm not bitter. I'm just better. I've learned that real respect is quiet and doesn't need to be begged for. My heart is lighter now. I laugh more. I sleep deeply. Sometimes I remember that cook-off night, the looks on their faces, the silence, the slow claps. And yes, it still makes me smile. I didn't scream. I didn't fight, but I won. And that quiet win, it still tastes sweet. Do you think I did the right thing by walking away from a family that only saw me as a servant? Or should I have stayed and tried to fix things with my husband? I'd really love to hear what you think in the comments. Your thoughts matter to me. And if you enjoy true stories of strength and quiet revenge, don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss the next one.